This podcast is sponsored by CDO Group, the industry leader in providing a full range of construction and project management services. CDO Group has managed thousands of projects in all 50 states. Their group of experts provides systems, processes, and procedures to make sure that your projects turn over on time and on budget every single time. With over 24 years of experience, CDO Group is the industry's leader in construction management and general contracting services. To find them, go to cdogroup.com. Hi, and welcome to the Future of Development podcast. My name's Anthony Amunategui, and I'm here to inspire people to find amazing careers in the construction development world. If you like our podcast, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really like our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Hey everybody, my name is Anthony Amunategui. Welcome to the Future Development Podcast. Today we've got an amazing guest. We've got David Burczyk and his group over at Trimble are doing some amazing stuff with robots and technology. They're changing the landscape of construction. Let's welcome David to the show. David, it's great having you on the show. I am, when we get to talk about your products, they're the kind of stuff that is changing the industry dramatically, right? Literally, when I first saw it, Eric came running in, our producer comes running into my office like he's a kid with a toy. He's like, look at this new toy I've got. You're going to love this. And he is so right. As I get to discover your company and the work that you've done, it's great stuff. So I'd like to just take a second and just talk about your company and how you got here.
Sure. So I work with a company called Trimble. We are a global company that does positioning technology for use in multiple industries. My particular focus is around construction. We've been around since 1978 and started out as a company where the founder was a Hewlett-Packard engineer. He took some patents for technology called GPS and turned that into a global billion-dollar company that's now known as Trimble, of course, and using that for different types of positioning within the construction industry. So my focus within Trimble is around our construction robotics. So I'm the Construction Robotics Lead at Trimble. I'm doing the integration of our hardware solutions that's used in construction with the Spot robotic platform. So we're integrating our 3D laser scanners, our robotic total stations, and our GNSS smart antennas. That's GNSS is also using GPS or satellites for positioning on the job site. So we're taking all those technologies and we're integrating it in as part of the Spot robotic platform.
Well, and that's that really caught my eye at first, right? Is having attached to the Boston Robotics Spot and having that become your transportation device, right? And being able to really take that and make it autonomous to be able to move around a job site, move around whatever type of job site that is, if it's an exterior job site or interior job site. The line that we had was, that's the look of the superintendent of the future, right? This, being able to take the job site to the architect, to the team, to the owner, so that standing on the job site as one person give you the power of one, but now being able to transmit that job site to all of the incorporated parties, changed it dramatically, right? Instant communication with everybody simultaneously. Everybody sees what's going on in the job, and it doesn't become such a siloed experience.
Right. Yeah. What the last year and a half or so with everything dealing with the pandemic has shown is there was a greater need to get, more access to job sites without being able to be physically there on the job site. And so what robotics is starting to do is it enables you to have that ability to be kind of a remote visitor, if you will, to where you can use an application, come into the robot that's on site and use it to do those kind of inspection workflows where you can go out, drive around the site, do an inspection without having to be physically there. But then also you could use that robot as a way of just documenting change over time on the job site as well. So you get consistent data capture over time and that information can start to be used to provide more predictive schedule adjustments, things of, seeing how the project's actually progressing. I'm also using it to, start to identify safety issues and be able to just ensure that the job keeps moving along, it's operating in a safe manner, and then just providing that kind of additional data analytics that currently isn't really done today. But just having those kind of different capabilities, you're right, using it as kind of that new superintendent of the future is a way that you can look at it for the use of robotics.
I look at Spot and the connection between the two of you guys as today, this is the bag phone of tomorrow, right? Today this is the bag phone, right? It's got limited capacity, it's got some limited skill set, but here, way further than we had before. Bag phones were way further than the landline was when they came out, right? It was like, wow, I could move around, I could talk from my car, from my boat, wherever I was at. That was a dramatic change in the communication device, right? From radios or CBs to now private communication. Same thing's happening now with taking your platform, right? This GPS platforms, this scanning devices, and being able to put them onto Spot, which Spot and the Boston Robotic Group are working in a silo, creating the transportation device, right? You guys are working in a silo over here where you're taking these technologies for scanning and measuring and all the impact of that. And this is a perfect example of what I believe is going to be the future where exponential growth will happen. Great people, Boston Robotics people, great folks that are doing dramatic stuff on their platform. Your group doing dramatic, great stuff. And now two of them are combining to make a superpower, which is really a device that is transportable around a job site. And as that technology gets smarter and smarter, and you guys partner with even more companies, where it becomes not just a scanning device today, right, as it becomes a communication device to the team, as it works in unison with other spots on a job site, right? Being able to work with deliveries, schedulings, inputs, being able to work simultaneously and with other scheduling softwares, delivery softwares, as these start to really integrate and these silos start to integrate together, you can very quickly see how the job site of the future will become much more integrated quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you described it really well. I mean, that's why Boston Dynamics and Trimble partnered up. We have a strategic alliance that we announced probably about a year ago now. And it was to do just like what you were describing. Boston Dynamics is very experienced around the use of robotics, and Trimble is very experienced around positioning technology in construction. So we're bringing those two together into this co-developed solution using Spot as a platform for construction data collection. And so, we felt at Trimble that it's really the right time now to start to bring these types of robotics into the construction application. Trimble has a long history of doing autonomous types of vehicles and, doing big vehicles, so around like civil construction. If you go out on highways and stuff, you'll see a lot of the technology that we have around those applications using the graders and things of that nature, or even agricultural applications. But that's using big, large vehicles. And now we see that the technology is there to start to bring that same kind of knowledge into the construction application, to where it's that kind of human scale, where it becomes this coworker to the teams on site. Because one of the issues that's happening in construction, you have labor shortages, and so how do you keep things moving forward? When you can't find, the staff or the resources available to help do that. And so robotics starts to become that piece that becomes a coworker on the site. I sometimes refer to it as a cobot, to where it's there to help supplement the teams that are on site. So then, for the staff that is on site, they're able to really focus their time and energy on the high value tasks. And then you let the robots take over those kind of redundant tasks, or you send the robots into the areas that, aren't safe for humans. And then that way you can ensure that, progress keeps going forward on the construction site without having to, stretch your resources too thin.
It's a great conversation, because so many people have this fear of what the robot's going to take over my job, and they're not going to be, these are jobs that are repetitive. These are jobs that are, that oftentimes, because the human on the job site, our superintendents are so busy solving the bigger problems, the bigger ideas, the bigger thoughts, the daily report gets lost. Right, the communication, the measuring what's happening gets lost. The first thing that happens with our superintendents when they're so busy is they don't get a second to stop over and take a picture of the trench that was dug, or and it's left to somebody else, and it's not captured the way you want it, and their information never gets compiled with the rest of the information, and all of a sudden I've got an incomplete file of information that then makes the rest of the information kind of a little bit less useful, right? And today now we can take a bot and have it start. This is clearly where we can start to break down those fears, right? Where I can look at a bot and go, okay, great. You're going to take the task that's repetitive, walking this job site all day long and taking photographs of the job site, measuring performance, just seeing the activity that's happening, and then communicating that through a device, right? You're going to take that data and continuously do that updating all day long. And I can now go solve the bigger problem. right? The integration problems, the places where things aren't working. Like you said, move to a much higher level of a problem-solving area. That's ultimately a lot more exciting, a lot more challenging, and is a lot more fulfilling for each one of the individuals, where those menial tasks, those repetitive tasks become very, very arduous and difficult to do.
It's an evolution of current positions, and it's creating new opportunities that don't even exist today.
That's right.
And so that's where you just start to see, that kind of progression. Like in my early years when I was with Trimble, I was focusing around the use of our robotic total stations, which were just being introduced into construction, specifically building construction, for doing the layout of the building. And at that time, it was the same kind of, this is a new technology. How is this going to affect what I do on a day-to-day basis? And what it did is it started to allow those individuals to be more efficient with their work. And, they started to learn that, okay, now we're able to actually go and get additional work, because of those efficiencies that we're gaining. And so, it started out as something that was a new technology that people had to learn about and had to teach themselves about. But then it has become, since that time, now this is a standard process that's used in the construction industry. So you see robotic total stations, on every single project site now, and it's used as just a standard practice and as a standard tool for laying out the building. And and that's where I want to see robotics get to as well, is where the robot today is something that's very unique. It draws a crowd when you come onto the job site with it. But, eventually that technology will get to a point where it's just like, oh yeah, that's just, that's the robot, and it's a tool, and it's part of the process.
Absolutely. And being able to take this total station and integrate that with Spot, and be able to have, this as one technology system that applies to a job site, right? A total package, one from layout, components, and making sure parts and pieces are where they belong to be. And not just that. How about, that total package becoming part of a system that integrates how deliveries happen, where they happen. In the future, we've clearly identified that general contracting and subcontracting may be a way of the future, may be gone in the future, right? As AI gets to develop layouts, plans, drawings, be able, to integrate, figure out the work scope, right? And then break those things down, and then go to the marketplace and identify people that can get that work done, and then notify them where the parts and pieces that they need to do that work. For example, when Uber came out, the taxi world fell apart. The need for someone to go to school, to study every street, know where everything was at, went away. Now a mother can go drop off her child on the way back home because she can make $50 picking and dropping off people, and that happens all via software. Today, a plumber, why we need plumbing subcontractors, because they're the ones who have all the plumbers, right? They have all the tools, and they buy all the products, and they have the relationship with the plumbing supply house. As AI can take that information or automate that information, break down that scope of work, take those parts and pieces from a supplier, order what's needed for today's scope of work, place it on a job site, go to the marketplace and say, hey, look, all 5-star plumbers, you get first pick at this scope of work. And by the way, pay can go up because the middleman's gone, and now I can go directly to the subcontractor and go, all right, here. Now your group, I need you to meet at quadrant B on job site A, and here's where all of your plumbing fixtures will be, and you'll be integrating those. And by the way, there's 4 of you on the crew. Here's what each one of you will do for today. Number 1, bring a ladder. Number 2, bring a pipe bender. Number 3, bring a saw. And then if there's anything new that's integrated, if they're pulling from technology or materials that these people haven't seen before, they'll train them on the way to the job site, right? You can see very quickly how the future job sites will become a lot smarter, pull from resources a lot further, and be able to have people on the job sites get in and get out. The biggest inefficiency on our job sites are the lack of communication between teams, where you show up on a job site expecting something to be done, and it's not. Today, you can see how Spot is continuously looking at that job site and being able to, take your technology and monitor what's happening there and communicate to the team in exact timing what's happening there. So I don't need to show up to a job site and find out my day is lost because the guy who was supposed to get the work done yesterday didn't get that done. I'm watching instantaneously what's happening on that job site, and I instead of having to guess and predict, and my superintendent who was supposed to communicate and call up and say, hey, they didn't get that done, forgot and missed the communication. Now that the whole team shows up, and I've got the inefficient, and ultimately that's the most inefficient part of the job site, and why subcontractors lose money is because the job site's not ready. So I love that. I love that. So as you guys started to develop this, go back a little bit with Trimble, and as your integration with the different parts and pieces that you've been developing, let's talk a little bit about those.
Yeah. So what's unique with our alliance that we have with Boston Dynamics is that on the Trimble side, we're not just integrating the 3D laser scan, which allows you to do that 3D capture, but we're also integrating with the total stations and the GNSS antennas for positioning, and so that all kind of works around that idea of the construction data collection, different pieces of information that you need to collect for different phases of the project. So scanning is typically done to capture what I like to call the as-is conditions, what's actually being constructed on site, or what is the real world versus what was in the model, and then with the total stations, it's being used for building layouts. So then as you kind of pre-plan all this work, you create these 3D models. You've got the ability then to take that information and accurately get it laid out on the site with the total stations. And then same with the GNSS as well. That works in an outdoor environment. If GNSS, sometimes people don't understand that term. It's global navigation satellite systems. So what that does is when you're in an outdoor environment and you have a clear line of sight to the sky, you use satellites to help position where you are on the job site. So it's taking all this digital information and making sure that it's accurately transferred from what's done in the office out to the field. And so, with Spot, we're able to then start to automate that process as well to increase the efficiency. So just like what you were talking about, all that kind of inefficiency that currently exists, you can start to eliminate that and then be able to move things forward faster.
As you're looking at the property development of the future, looking at the property as we start to lay out the property, when we're done, as we develop the property, as we develop the building that goes on there and every component that's on it, being able to look next generation, future generations of work that happens there, the amount of information that we can get from each one of these buildings is changing rapidly. In the past, oftentimes we'd work in buildings where the original drawings are gone. We might be second, third, fourth. I remember a bank that we've done that our company itself has built out in that same exact space 3 other concepts. Right. And, it started off once as a Boston market, and then it went to one bank, and then went to another bank. And we built all 3 of those in that same exact location. Right today, and by the way, every single time we built the location, we demoed everything inside of it. We started completely over, and and maybe in the future that won't need to happen. Maybe we could strategically look at a building and figure out how we attack this in a much smarter way based on what's existing, knowing that, hey, there's water lines behind here. There's this would be a perfect way to leave that wall intact, and we'll be able to take off this piece of wall, and we can modify that much more precise.
Yeah, absolutely. You're creating that digital twin. So that's that term that you kind of hear being used today. It's documenting in a digital concept what actually exists there in the real world. And so when you have something like Spot going around with a laser scanner on it, or even 360 cameras, and it's documenting the change over time, you now have a very accurate digital asset of that facility or that particular building. So just like what you said, if you have this information collected over time, you can then archive that, and you have a database that you could zoom in onto one particular area within the digital representation of that building, and you can see how it has changed over time. So from the very beginning to the very end of construction, if you've done an area where you've already punched it out and said, okay, this is complete, it's finished, and we walk away, but then suddenly some damage happens. If that area is being documented over time, you could actually zoom in and see when did that damage actually occur, and you kind of narrow it down to that smaller window. And those are kind of the opportunities that you're seeing here, that as you start to get this more consistent data collection happening over time, it's just opening all new avenues of opportunity to actually increase the efficiencies. The other idea is starting to do more of the prefabrication. That's right. One of the things, when I worked in construction, the most demoralizing thing was when you had to do rework. You put all this energy into putting it in once, right. And then you're told, nope, tear it out and start over. Prefabrication is great because it's much easier to do those kind of changes when everything's being coordinated in a virtual environment. And then once you finally get it all locked down, then you build it. And so then, okay, let's prefabricate it off site. And then it's kind of a just-in-time delivery to the job site. So you have these kind of prefabricated modules. you get the higher quality, and you're not doing a rework, and you're able to then put out a nice high quality product. So all sorts of different kind of applications, opportunities are starting to evolve as a result of this kind of consistent data collection over time.
I think that's one of the number one things that you were saying right there. I love is that we can't tell yet what's going to happen. When cars came out, you couldn't imagine Uber. You couldn't imagine, right? For the guy on the stagecoach,
right, yeah.
looking at the car. Well, what's that darn thing? We could not have imagined, that I could point at a little box in my hand and one of those things would come to me. And as we're starting to, this ramp that's happening, we're at this acceleration pace of a technology in our field. It really behooves us to look at the partnerships. Be on a swivel. Constantly looking for the opportunity to co-partner with people to evolve. The folks that like the taxi drivers that just dug their heels and said, "I'm not changing. I'm never going to do Uber," and they held on to those shields, and they're on there, and they got these $300,000 shields. And mom came by with an app that she downloaded on her cell phone, and she's making way more money than you are. All of a sudden, those people didn't evolve and they lost out. And I think that's where we are as an industry. Is we're finally at a place where evolution's happening at such a great speed. It's the most exciting time in construction's ever had. For most of my career, we operated a lot like we did, like they built, we built Boston markets and they probably built the Coliseum very similar, right? We carried very heavy crap over to a place, we banged on it, and all of a sudden we had a building. Well, today, the technology, the stuff that we're using is dramatically different, and that's in less than 25 years, watching that evolution happen. In this next 5 years, that's happening. It's such an exciting time to be here. And watching your product, I mean, when I saw your product, and even Eric was right, he walked in, that is a game changer. You guys are on the precipice of an amazing change that's happening. You could see the future superintendent being, looking a lot like this, and just being able to integrate and communicate to everybody on that field all day consistently in a much faster way.
It's really exciting to see where the industry is going. For me, my background, I started out as an architect, and I was doing large scale commercial construction, and then as the use of 3D technology started to come into play, it was the general contractors that were really investing in that technology. And so I shifted my career from being an architect to working for a general contractor, and really starting to use that 3D technology. And then as I was doing that job, I started to then participate with construction technology developers to then, okay, how do we start to develop the technology that the general contractor I was working with was implementing? And it was during that time that I was like, I really want to do this full time. And that's what, brought me over to Trimble. And just to see, how you have this whole evolution of the technologies and how it's changing the way the construction process is done, it's been very exciting, and just to see that change over time is exciting, and where it can go within the industry is exciting to just think about the different ideas. And I think that's a thing that, everyone should, keep in mind as well, is just, keep your mind open to where these new technologies are. It's there to improve the process, so you can, continue to move forward with, how you do things on a day-to-day basis.
So wait a minute. Hold on. So you start as an architect, then you go to the dock side as a general contractor. Now you're on the dock side, right? You come over to us, over to general. Oh my God! And then now you get to go play with toys with all this technology stuff, which seems like the playground, right? You suffered, you got to go to the dark side. Now you're in the playground with all these cool new toys, which would be the play. That's the playground, which is I love. I'm a toy guy. I love the new stuff. I love watching new technologies evolve. It's very fulfilling to watch. You remember the first time that you saw Spot integrate with one of your products?
Yeah. It's just the overall integration in general is just, I wish I had these things, like even when I was in school, to be able to see the way you're capturing data, which is, how I think about things. I'm, being trained as an architect, you look at things, 3-dimensionally, and to now be able to you have a laser scanner that goes out and captures that. And then you see that same space 3-dimensionally. It's exciting to be able to experience that, from how you've been thinking about it, but now it actually, it happens as a technology piece. And when that gets added into a spot to where, if I'm remotely operating it somewhere where I'm not even where the robot is, and I can have it go out, document that space, and then I go and I immerse myself inside of that point cloud that shows the area that Spot just walked. I mean, it's an amazing experience, because then suddenly you're like, I feel like I'm there. I understand what's going on with the project. So, the first time, I got to see that kind of integration, it's exciting, when that comes through.
You're birthing a whole new genre in the business, where it's so much smarter, so much faster. I get goosebumps when we do these things. We see these breakthroughs happen here. You really can imagine, I've got it right on the other side of this wall here. It says dirt to dishes in 4 weeks. The whole idea behind that is when I watched during the COVID, China build these hospitals as fast as they were building them. The super hospital. I got really excited about that. I said, that's ultimately what we have always been around here is how do we start to look at the opportunities to take a project, and if some people were doing it in 16 weeks, I'd say, no, hey guys, we've got to do that in 8 weeks. And my team would go, why? Like, look, you don't understand. We're going to make more money, and our clients are going to be happier, and our subcontractors will make more money also. Our partners will walk out more satisfied, more precise. The quality will go up, and they're going, well, how you're making me do it's in the development of the system that makes everything about it better. Right. It's not just, it's not taking our superintendents and working longer hours, and that would never work. Right. It was in finding ways to integrate hours and shifts. One of the things that came out of it for our team was we changed the way we worked hours. It used to be that everybody showed up on a job site at 6:30. And we all had to, or 6:30, we had to all show up at 6, and everybody got at 2, and then you'd have from 2 o'clock, every one of our job sites has a camera on it. And we do these time-lapse studies of them, and from 2 o'clock to 6 a.m., nothing happens. And we're over there, trying to jam as many people on a job site in the morning as we could. And one of the guys said, well, why don't we just use the rest of those hours? Right. And during the pandemic, you couldn't have as many people on a job site, and we started to spread that out, and we started doing shift stacking. Instead of trade stacking one shift, we started changing that. Now, there were some people that wanted to come in at 3 o'clock in the morning. There were old timers that said, I want to be in and done. I don't sleep anyways. I want to get in and done, and they're off the job site. And then you had some of the younger guys who were up playing, video games all night, and they're like, hey, I don't want to be there until 10 o'clock. And I want to show up at 10 o'clock. And all of a sudden, started to look at a job site differently. And with tools like yours, where I can communicate to all of them, right? It used to be that if I wanted to work on a job site and we weren't there at the same time, inevitably there'd be a stack of drywall right where I wanted to paint today. And, I wouldn't know how to communicate that. By the time, today I have your product, and I can look at a job site continuously, always being updated. Right now, the job site's real, it's live, you can communicate to all of us, and I know exactly where I can be. And as a project manager, a superintendent, I can continuously change my schedule and make sure that everybody that shows up there has a clear pathway, because that's what they're looking for, right? That's what our subcontractors are looking for. They want to be able to show up, and you guys have found a way to communicate to people in a much clearer way than ever before. So bravo to you guys. Your work is it's fun.
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely fun. You definitely start to get, more of a kind of a predictive understanding of where things are going on the job, and that's the main thing. And, I think what the last year and a half has shown everybody, when you had to rethink how you wanted to do work on a day-to-day basis, that, before you might have thought of those ideas and you're like, that's never going to work. And then when you were forced into it, you realized, oh yeah, we can make this work. And now you've evolved and changed as a result. So, just getting more predictive around that side really starts to help, how you transform the way you work.
So now I give you a crystal ball. Here's your crystal ball, David. Here. Now, when you start to look at the future, right? You're looking down the pathway. What's your biggest prediction? If you don't mind me tapping into, where do you see Where do you see the future? How do you see this going?
You're going to start to see more and more different types of robotic applications on a job site. So you have like what we're doing with Spot, walking around the site, but then you have other types of applications where you're going to see finishing robots, you're going to see drilling robots, different types of things coming into the job site that I think you're going to start to see more of a manufacturing process get applied to construction. So the kind of offsite prefabrication where things get delivered just in time to the job site, just like what you were describing earlier in the conversation. That ability to be able to improve the quality, improve the predictability, that's going to start to become more and more commonplace. And so, different ways of capturing the data, running some analysis on that will start to become more commonplace as well, to where then you kind of create this choreography of, how do we get things from, materials from one place to another, get it to the job site, get the crews on the job site, but really start to orchestrate it to where it's like not everyone's showing up at the same time, but we can really pace things out to really ensure that efficiency. I think you're going to start to see more of that as we move forward here. There's a hunger, I think, in the industry around doing prefabrication, the ability to really be more predictable. And even from like the craft workers, it would be much nicer to go to a controlled environment, where you can work on your craft there and not have to worry about if it's, negative 30 degrees outside or something like that, or if it's, a 100-degree plus day. I could be in a climate controlled environment and be able to do my craft and not have to, worry about those environmental conditions. Being able to do all those types of things, as that prefabricated assembly and bring it out, I think that's what you're going to start to see. And then the robots will be there to assist in that overall installation.
When you were an architect, you remember, most architects up until this now point had a kit of parts, right? If you were an architect and you built a type of product, if you were retail, you had steel studs and drywall screws and copper piping. And, there was this kit of parts that you used to develop it. You may have moved them around a little bit, but use the same kit of parts, right? As we start to be able to integrate products from around the world and construction methods from around the world, we're noticing that I can pull from a much larger kit of parts, and based on availability and product specifications, and I can go grab those parts. If I'm doing it in a prefab environment, I can utilize them in a much smarter way than ever before. Some of the parts may actually adapt better, spatially, meet our spatial requirements a lot differently, right? Being able to take a product that fits into a molding, right? A product that fits into a lot different than what we had to do, today in a job site. I may not be able to do that flexibility, right? I might have to bump out a wall because I've got this conduit in there. Well, if I can move that conduit, or if I can make that chase into an airway, all of a sudden I've changed my ability in the design specifications, and ultimately for the betterment of the building. And then as you start to look at the adaptation of that, and the long-term effects of the products that we use, you can see that the products that we use today, and as they're great. But the products of the future, as we build them in prefab models and we bring them to a job site, I can now understand how they operated, and the information I can capture on the product and actually on the building as it operates will feed that loop back again to find better products and smarter products to make the next generations smarter, more efficient, easier to operate, a much more better controlment in the environment. The longevity of the products, the maintenance of the products becomes, we continuously will see that. And today that doesn't happen. Today, you have to find the really smart maintenance man that has all the knowledge in one spot. Up here, it doesn't transfer from department to group to future very well. Today it happens you have to go find Bob, the maintenance guy that knows how to operate the building, but Bob never talks to you guys, the architects, and feeds that information about the building. The buildings of the future, as we're seeing this incline happen, it's starting to get smarter. And your technology you're developing, the stuff that you're doing right now, is changing that whole space. So again, one more bravo, and that's it. I promise I won't do another bravo. Bravo to you guys. Eric's over here giving no more bravos. Bravo to you guys and the work that you're doing. Sorry, Eric. Sorry.
No, I appreciate that. It's an exciting time to be in the industry right now. Things are changing, but I think they're changing for the positive. And as you start to see things move forward, it's like you're saying, if you think about it, with all this type of digital technology and things of that nature coming in, you now have like a digital asset or a digital token of the project that it really becomes that kind of living organism, if you will, that, really can tell you how this building has evolved over time from start to finish. And that becomes something that can live with the building through its entire life cycle. So it's exciting. It's definitely an exciting time to be in the industry. And it's just neat to, think about where things can go.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll do one more little segment on this piece. You can see how a retail environment, right? As a brand wants to go develop in a retail environment, we'll be able to pull together budgets and forecasts and stuff because the knowledge of the building itself is there, right? Knowing the structure, and then not just that, as we know the building better, and as the other silos are working on understanding the demographic model better, right? As the Internet of Things and the product and Amazons and third-party delivery folks are learning our customers way better than ever before. Locating retail locations, hospitals, church, the service equipment that we need becomes such a smarter environment. It's really fun to see what we're doing. So, David, I got to tell you, you and I will be doing this a bunch more. If people want to find you and they want to partner with you and your group, where do they find you?
Yeah, you can reach out to us through our website. Go to fieldtech.trimble.com, and you can see all the solutions that we're using within the construction industry. So there's a page on there about Spot. There's a page about all the total stations and the laser scanners. But it's a great way to just first learn about the technology that's out there and be able to connect with us. So definitely check that out. It's well worth it.
If you have not been to David's page, first of all, the superintendent of the future is dancing. You got Spot doing a dance on there with the equipment on it. It is something to see, and it's a game changer. David, I'm so grateful for your time today, and look forward to you having on the show again.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to talking with you again when the next new cool thing comes out.
Cool. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Anthony Amunategui, always looking for people to bring insight into the industry, finding ways to inspire people to have amazing careers in the development world. If you liked our podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really liked our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Thanks again for listening. Please share it with your friends.